Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. As the daughter of an immigrant mother, I believe in the power of the generational jump through education. My grandmother came to this country with a 4th grade education. My parents made the enormous leap of completing a college degree despite growing up as child farm workers in Texas. I was able to achieve 4 degrees from prestigious universities, one of which includes Harvard, and I have the loans to prove it. Why are some children able to progress through the educational continuum, past college completion, into graduate school, while others are not? What if I told you that the factors most likely to comprise the completion gap by race occur before a student ever enrolls in college? Now, given this information, consider investing more focused research attention on how the pre-K to college pipeline can help close the racial college completion gap. And doing so will yield benefits such as stronger state economies, more prosperous families, and a future impact on generations after us, similar to that seen with my own family. How are we going to do this? First, we need to build a keen awareness and acceptance of the demographic transformation currently occurring in our country. Second, we need to unpack this college completion gap because it's complex and we need to understand its origins and its barriers. And third, we need high quality data, which I will argue is a fundamental tool in identifying problems and finding solutions to the racial college completion gap. So let me begin with what I like to call the educational elephant in the room: demography. A majority of all births in this nation are now non-white, and a majority of all our public school students are now non-white. Latinos are now the majority minority in both 2- and 4-year colleges and universities, and they're the majority group in public schools in states such as Texas, California, New Mexico, and New York. What these demographics signal is that the education of non-white children is a primary responsibility of our schools for the sustainability of the United States. So where are we on the college completion gap by race? I'm going to show you a case study from Texas, which represents one of the fastest growing states in the nation, as well as one of the most diverse and with one of the more developed data systems that we have. What we see here is the completion gap by race at 4-year institutions across a 6-year period for a cohort. And what we see is there indeed is a racial college completion gap, and it's bigger for some groups than others. 14 percentage points between the white and Latino gap, and 22 percentage points between white and black students. So what we sought to unpack and understand is what factors and what sectors are most responsible for this racial college completion gap using our data. And this is what we found. Nearly 2/3 of what comprises the racial college completion gap can be attributed to the pre-college sector that includes individual characteristics, high school segregation, academic preparation, and per pupil expenditures. And this is very similar for both groups. So then we sought to further understand if both groups are responding to this very critical pre-college sector in the same ways. And we had the data to do so. 2 stories here, and let me begin with similarities. The first is that between the group comparisons, the factor most likely to influence in a negative way the racial college completion gap is high school segregation. Let's not forget that. But an often undertold and critical story is that what is happening here is that the groups might be responding differently to different factors. And in fact, what is driving the racial college completion gap between whites and Latinos outside of high school segregation is economic disadvantage. And what is driving the completion gap between white and black students is academic preparation. Now, this doesn't mean that black students will not benefit from financial aid programs or that Latino students are sufficiently academically prepared, because we have evidence to the contrary. But this does mean that we can better identify, isolate, and create better targeted interventions with better data. The moral to this story is that I could not have brought you these findings without the presence of high-quality data. And the reality is that some states are nowhere near this capacity to do so, and other states are well on their way gaining data not only on college completion, but the labor force. Ladies and gentlemen, we will not meet the nation's overall goal of increasing college completion rates if we do not make serious progress on closing the racial college completion gap. And I have two recommendations. The first is to look more creatively and comprehensively at solutions across the pipeline from pre-K to college. And the second is to look across state contexts, because what matters in South Dakota may not matter or will matter differently in Florida. Imagine if we had a pre-K to labor force data set in every state in the nation, allowing us to more effectively find interventions to closing the racial college completion gap, but also gaps by income, by citizenship status, and English learner status. That, I believe, will get us to the national impact we're looking for as educators and as policymakers. Thank you.